Welcome, 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 welcome. Ladies, are you ready? And still, she rise. Thank you for taking the time out to join me today for my very first summit, And Still She Rise, on this awesome Saturday morning. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so excited. Can you tell that I'm excited? Are you excited? Because I'm excited. We have a lineup of amazing women to pour into you today to talk about their stories of self-discovery, their stories of transition, their stories of how they've battled, how they've overcome, and how they have found success and what they are still doing to still rise. Because you do know, ladies, we are rising daily and still she rise. And so I'm excited to be here on this day. And so before we get into the summit, I'm excited. I want to first just talk about a little bit about who I am. You know, my name is Dr. Reader, and I am a therapist, an author, a wellness coach, and a speaker. And I had this vision to have this summit because I know many women like myself have been through life experiences. We've had some drama and some trauma, and life sometimes just felt hard. Things were just difficult, but still we made a way to still rise, right? And sometimes we just need to hear and see other women doing the thing, right? Doing the daggone thing, because in some way, that transparency gives us hope. That transparency allows us to see that things are possible even for us, even in our situation, even in this moment, and still she rise. This summit was also named after the poem. Many of you may have heard of it, by Dr. Maya Angelou. I call her Auntie Maya because she spoke many wise words throughout many years. And so when I came to know her through her poetry, that poem, And Still I Rise, really resonated with me. And so today we're going to have many women to share with you in that same vein of how they continue to rise. And so next up, what you will see is some footage from Auntie Maya on her poem. She did live reciting the poem, And Still I Rise. Check it out.
This poem is called And Still I Rise. Now, every person in this auditorium has gone to sleep one night or another, or gone to bed one night or another, with fear or pain or loss or terror, unhappiness, grief, insecurity, and yet each of us has awakened, arisen, seen another human being and said, "Morning, how are you?" "Fine, thanks, and you?" Now, now, wherever that abides, whether it's behind the kneecap or in the bend of the elbow or between the teeth, wherever that lives, there we will find our nobleness. Not nobility, I think that's a pompous word, but the nobleness of the human spirit, that we rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? Just because I walk as if I have oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my sassiness upset you? Don't take it so hard just because I laugh, as if I have gold mines digging in my own backyard. You can shoot me with your words, you can cut me with your lies, you can kill me with your hatefulness, but just like life, I rise. Does my sexiness offend you? Oh. Does it come as a surprise that I dance as if I have diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame I rise. Up from a past rooted in pain I rise. A black ocean leaping and wide, welling and swelling and bearing in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak miraculously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the hope and the dream of the slave. And so, wow. There I go.
Hello, Abigail. Can we first shout out Auntie Maya? I love that poem and Still I Rise. She was something else. I love watching that that every time. So Abby, thank you for
Yes.
coming out to hang out with me for a little bit to talk about lots of things, all things Abigail.
Yay.
Let's first start off with just telling us a little bit about who you are. Who's Abby? Abigail Harry.
Good morning, or good afternoon, or it's 11 o'clock somewhere. So, my name is Abigail Harry. I was recently married, actually. So, Patrick, my last name will be changing to Patrick soon, and I'm happy about that. But Abby, first off, is a daughter. She's a daughter of two persons from Trinidad and Tobago. So I am the second of the family to be first generation born of the U.S. And I mention that because that does that impacts who I am today. I am also a wife, newlywed, 6 months, about a few days ago, to Kyle Patrick. And also I'm a mother to a beautiful son, Josiah, a 12-year-old, and I am proud of that. I'm also a cousin to many family members, many cousins on both sides, and I mention that as well because they are the closest people and the persons that I rely on for feedback in everything that I do. And so I'm also a friend to people that I love. I have a small circle of friends, but I love them dearly. They're all over this world. And when I do get in touch with them, it's like we've never missed a beat. But I am all of that, as well as someone that is really really dedicated into working with communities that are underserved. And so I have this passion. It's always been in me because of, I have a lot of family members in the health field. And so I was always exposed to caretakers, whether it's companionship, whether it's nursing assistants, health administrators. They've always been, I have a lot of family members that care for their community. And so I'm grounded in that. And so who I am today is someone that is moving towards helping communities on a wider scale. I went to school. I'm a HBCU alum. I went to Howard University, HU, and I'm a proud graduate. And I also went to University of Trinidad to get my master's. And so I have both degrees in health management and health administration. And through that, in my experience, I've seen a lot of disparities, health disparities, income disparities, a whole bunch of disparities in communities that I'm from and that I serve. And so that where I am in my life today is that I want to give back, and I want to make an impact in making communities stronger and healthier. And by doing that through collaborative efforts. Collaboration is the name of my part of my business, Collab Partners. And my business partner is actually a family member, a cousin, as I mentioned. And we came together again because of our interest in working with communities. And so, therefore, we came up with this name of Collab Partners because we saw the value of working together. You can't work in silos to achieve anything. And so, therefore, it was important for us to have the name Collaboration in our business name so that we show persons that we really value their input. We listen to their concerns, their goals, so that we are able to get them to where they need to go. And so it's very important in moving forward that I network with people, meet people, and work together and sharing a vision and making better communities. So I don't know if I gave you all of who I am, but it's all about passion.
I love it, love it, love it. Abby, you said a lot of important things. I believe starting first, excuse me, is that, our upbringing and where we're from, our culture, our environment shape us to who we are, right? Our
Yes.
family and friends, or whomever, it gives us different nuggets that we use to rise, so to speak. And so I really love how you still embrace the kind of the foundation of community, and it's wanting to see people do well within the community, right?
Yes.
Important. So my question to you is this: as you said earlier, you're newlywed. Congratulations!
Thank you.
You're a mother. You're a sister, cousin, friend, all of the above, and you're also from Trinidad, and you down here in the States. As a woman with all of this rich background and culture, you had a business. You started an organization in Trinidad also, right?
Yes, I didn't get to mention that. Yes.
So I mean, that's powerful, because now that you're here, you're doing the same. You started a new business called Collab Partners. So can you speak to, because I know there are women watching who have various backgrounds or similar background as you, kind of how to transition, how to carry the culture with them and still be able to start something here in the U.S. So can you talk about the challenges that you may have faced and that you continue to face as you move forward in business, as you move forward in creating community within both cultures?
Right. Okay. Yes. So we'll start with the culture, right? So my vision drive. It started back, my grandparents. I grew up with my grandparents for a very long time, and they are from Trinidad and Tobago. And so that, again, them being caretakers, they were also, we used to call the house Ellis Island, because a lot of family members used to come, family and friends used to come and stop at my grandparents' house, wherever they were transitioning to in the US. And I got exposed to just different people. But the story that I heard, a constant thread that I would hear is that, like, when you hear about them talking about old friends, they passed away. And if they're sick or they passed away, it's because they have sugar or they have this or they have that. And I used to wonder, I'm like, why are all these, my grandparents are here, but why are all these people that I'm hearing outside, they're passing and suffering from diseases and conditions that I know that are something that can be handled here, right? And so through noticing those things, I started doing research and doing a comparative analysis. When I went into college, I was always pulling newspaper articles in Trinidad and Tobago just to see anything health related. And so in doing that, about 15 years ago, I decided to leave the country. I decided to leave to the US to actually learn more about the Trinidadian culture and how they access healthcare. And so in my move, that's when I really saw how things were working out. And again, culture is embedded in me because my family, the foods that we eat, the music that we listen to, everything is embedded. And so I can't avoid it. I am American, but I do have some Trinidad and Grenadian roots. And so when I moved into the country, my first actual job was doing consulting work. And I was working with this physician to get his school registered with the Accreditation Council. And so through the experience in working with him, I got to meet a lot of community members. And another common thread that I would see is that I would see a lot of community members doing great work in the community, but they could never get the funds. And it used to frustrate me because I would see how passionate they are. And then I would always be comparing what I see in the US and how easy resources were. And so that's really where it hit me. And so in the process of working with community leaders in Trinidad and Tobago, it then made me realize something more has to happen because there are resources out there, but they're just not exposed. And I'm not diminishing community leaders here because I saw it here while I was working for nonprofits. And so one of the things that was a challenge for me is how can I first get people to understand that what they're doing is groundbreaking and really valuable work, but there needs some structure. And that's where there were some cultural differences going on, right? Because in smaller communities, we share a lot. We give a lot to each other. And wherever there's gaps, persons, help us. And that's along with the collaboration. But you could be doing so much more if you were just slightly informed about how to ask those companies to get the money to support you. And so that one of the things that while I was down there, I think first, one of the challenges is just that people couldn't believe that American had left America to come to Trinidad, even though I had I had roots in Trinidad, but that was a challenge in itself. So I had to first then convince people that I genuinely cared about the work that they were doing. Once I was able to get through that hurdle, it was just really getting the resources together. And so back in, I want to say about 2013, that's when I started my own organization. I went to school down there, again, learning more about the culture. And I would honestly say that if you're a startup organization and you really do want to startup organization or business, I would say that obviously it doesn't have to be formal education, but whomever your customers are, whoever your target population is, try to put yourself in the environments where they are so you can get a fuller understanding of who you're serving, because that will make impact in the work that you do. And I'm coming from, yes, the aspect of working in the nonprofit field, but moving over into the for-profit for a business, it is still valuable information, right? Data is a key to the work that you do. So going back to my challenges, again, it was more of creating structure in a culture that collabs all the time with little resources, and then convincing the institutions that these persons are the persons that should be getting the money, because usually it's the bigger businesses and the bigger organizations that the Red Cross and the this and the that, and no, I'm not diminishing the work that they do, But when you're really looking at community work, it's those persons, it's the auntie that lives down the street that's providing food for the school children, right? It's the church leader that's in the area that's providing clothes for the homeless persons, right? Those are the persons that are really grounding in the work. And so it's just really merging the culture of the community and the way they do things to expose them to how the institutions have their expectations, but also providing information towards those institutions, allowing them to understand that although these structures, these persons don't have a real structure into implementing the work, they're getting the work done and they're providing those numbers.
Right.
I don't know if I answered your question,
No,
but
you did. I think that was rich because there are people out there who work for nonprofits who want to bridge the gap, so to speak, and having to navigate the two can be a challenge.
yes.
It impacts how you may even feel about your own skill sets if I'm even able to do this. And so we start the question, and sometimes may find ourselves walking away because it may feel too hard. So thank you for kind of unpacking kind of what you've done. So before we wrap up, can you share with the audience 3 things that they can do to build their confidence when trying to establish community and their passion for work?
Yes, 3 things. One thing that I suggest is if you have faith in a higher power, whatever that is, trust in that. Put your faith in that higher power. For me, it's God. And so, therefore, there was a lot of prayer because in starting something new, you're going to have some fear of failure. But that's number 1, is to be grounded in your faith. Number 2 is find your cheerleaders. My cheerleaders are my family, my sister, cousin, to other cousins, to friends and family. Those are the support systems that would help you when the times are challenging. And third is stick to your vision. If you are seeing clearly what the end game is, do not let anyone deter you from that. And so therefore, again, once you have that faith and you have that strong community of cheerleaders, that vision will get you where you need to go. So
That was great. So before we close out, can you tell the audience how they can connect with you? How can they find you? What are
Yes. Well, you can find me in 3 sources and on the web. So we have our website, Collab Partners LLC, and I think it will be posted up there. Yes. So you can go to our website, Collab Partners, no vowels in the partners, for collabpartners.com. You can also email us at collabpartnersllc@gmail.com, as well as you can find us on Facebook and Instagram, Collab Partners LLC or Collab Partners. Dr. Rita will have that information up for you to find it. But if you're a favorite on Facebook, you can also go to my personal page, Abigail Harry, or my partner's page, Akila Evans, and you will get the links to our business information. So thank you for your time, Dr. Rita, and I'm excited to see the rest of the panelists today.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Abigail. Take care. Wow, I am so excited to have heard from Abby. And it makes so much sense to me. Think about community. I'm sure that as many of you can relate, we live in community and we see things and we have passions and we have desires and we have dreams to want to help, to want to serve. And oftentimes we don't know what to do, where to go, where to start. And sometimes those dreams and desires remain dreams and desires because we may feel discouraged. And so I'm glad that Abigail was able to share with us a little bit about what she does and the strategies that she take coming from Trinidad here to the U.S., bringing with her experience, her culture, and her sense of community. So let me hear from you below your thoughts so far. Are you enjoying the summit so far? As we get prepared to receive our next guest, I want to ask you a couple of questions. Just a couple of questions. The summit is called And Still She Rise. And as I said in the beginning, we all have had some life experiences. So my first question to you is, have you ever had an experience where life just kicked rocks? You felt disempowered, frustrated, discouraged, a little depressed, but you knew something had to change and you knew you had to still rise above it. Let me hear your comments in the chat. Or what about this one? Perhaps you are someone who wants to become a business owner. You have all these amazing ideas. You write them down in your journal and you have a whole outline to go with them, but something happens in our thinking. We start to question our ability to whether or not we can actually do it. But somewhere within yourself, you believe you can still rise and still do that. You just need to connect to someone who's doing it or see someone leading by example. If you can relate to that, let me hear you in the chat and see your comments. This is what this is about. And still she rise. Women from all over doing amazing work, but they started from somewhere. Trust and believe they too had their doubts as to whether or not they would be able to overcome, whether they'll be able to do a thing or two. And still she rise. So I am looking forward to our next speaker. But in the meantime, hang on tight. We're going to play a commercial for you. And then we'll be right back. Hello, hello, hello.
Can you hear me?
I hear you fine, Tracy. How are you?
I can't hear you.
Oh, no. Well, you know what they say about technology. When it works, it works. And when it doesn't, it doesn't. I'm hoping that you can hear me. Let's see if you're on mute. Give us a second, guys. We're just having a little tech challenge. Hold on. Okay, let's see if that works. Tracy, can you hear us? Can you hear me? Oh, technology.
I can't hear you.
So,
hi, Tashina. Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine. So let's just tell the viewers.
I can't hear you.
as we work out the kinks, right? And so here I have for you Tracy Smith. She is an amazing woman who works really hard with women who are dealing with cancer. She herself is a survivor, and I invited her on here today to talk about how she has helped others and how she's still rising, helping other women fight the fight of cancer. Not only does she help women with breast cancer, but she helped women with all types of cancer. In fact, Tracy's very dear to my heart because during my time of dealing with cancer, she was my village. She had wrapped her arms around me, literally and figuratively, with support to help me get through those dark moments when you have to undergo chemo and all those things that come with cancer treatment. And so not only does she help women, but she also helps their families. They also help her families to help them work with and support their loved ones who are going through the challenges of cancer also. And so Tracy, do we have sound on your end?
No.
We don't have sound. So can you check your mic? Are you on mute? Is your volume up? Hold on, guys. Thank you for your patience. Again, when technology works, it works. And when it doesn't, it doesn't. So hold on for a second. Thank you so much.
I took it off of me, but you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Hey, Queen. Hey, Queen. Hey, Queen. Sister. Girl, you've done it again. You are constantly raising the bar for all of us and doing so flawlessly.
You do know that you're that girl, right?
I hope that when you wake up in the morning and look in the mirror, you see how divine you are.
Know that so many people want what you got.
You have dreams to fulfill and promises to yourself that you must keep.
I know at times you feel underappreciated and misvalued. Trust me, we've all been there.
So it's necessary that you can count on yourself.
Now, don't go seeking perfection.
Extend yourself a little grace.
Don't be afraid to celebrate the little wins as much as the big ones.
You, Miss Thang, are courageous. You are dynamic. You are principled.
So, baby girl, just remember, respect is a minimum.
There's a sweet justice in knowing that the path you are on was designed for you and your love.
Doing right by yourself never goes out of style.
Everything about you is majestic and a force to be reckoned with.
Trust me, people are paying attention.
You're special and worthy of praise. Don't shy away from it.
And you don't have to get your groove back because guess what? You never lost it.
It's also important to rest. Make sure your hustle doesn't get in the way of your health. Girl, take care of yourself.
And the next time you want to second guess yourself, don't do it.
So pause for a second right now and relax, relate, release.
You are needed. You are appreciated.
Girl, you make me so proud. And I love you.
Remember,
You are 100%
That queen.
Oh, yes.
Hello. Hey.
Hey, ladies, how we're back. And so, like always, when things happen, you have to pivot. And so we pivoted, and we're gonna work this out, okay? Thank you for your
I can just slightly, if you can talk up a little bit.
Okay. So Tracy, welcome.
Yes. Thanks,
Who are
Tashina.
you? Who is Tracy Smith?
So first and foremost, I am a mother of a beautiful 24-year-old young woman. I am a child care provider. I am a serial entrepreneur. I own Creative Vases. I have become a newly florist. I actually own an event space called CMC Event Space. And I am a founder of a nonprofit breast cancer organization called Tracy's Bio, which I coach and help those that are going through breast cancer. And so I'm all of that in one.
Tracy, you're awesome. Thank you so much for coming on here today and sharing who you are. As I was sharing with the audience before we had our technical challenges about how you help not only women with breast cancer, but women with cancer in general, and you help their families.
I do.
Right? And so I think it's important to note just how you provide really a holistic service through Tracy's Bio to help women not only survive but thrive, which is your slogan, right? Yes. Tracy's Bio, which stands for beautiful inside and out.
Correct.
You mentioned, I had to show this off. You mentioned about your books, guys. She's a 5-time author. Tracy has written books upon books, and the beauty of this is that she invites the women who she serves to become authors in her books, and it's a powerful experience. I was in book 3. So Tracy, as I was saying to the audience earlier, you wrapped your arms around me literally and figuratively as I also went through my own journey with cancer. And so I know you had your own journey. Can you talk about how Bio came to be? And why?
Sure. And so, believe it or not, 10 years ago, I'm actually celebrating my 10-year anniversary this year. 10 years ago, I, like most people, as well as yourself, Tashina, I got that call. And so I got the call to say, Mrs. Smith, let me back up a little bit. And so I was just living my life, doing what I do in childcare. Not really taking care of myself, but when I decided to take care of myself, went to the doctors, decided that I wanted to better my health. I wanted to run the Broad Street Run with a big endeavor. And so I actually went to the doctors to make sure that I was physically fit. But during that time, I was noticing that I had a lump that was appearing, disappearing, appearing. And just almost on the way out, as I finished my visit, I said to my doctor, can you please check this lump to see what it is? I might thought it was a deodorant lump or just my hormones. And so she checked the lump. She left the room for a good 15, 20 minutes. And she said, I want you to go upstairs to the oncology department. They're waiting for you. Okay, it's a big lump in my throat. I went upstairs, had a biopsy, had a CAT scan that day, unknown to me. And 3 days later, I got the call to say that, Mrs. Smith, you have breast cancer. And so, as you can imagine, it was a blow to my physical, mental, spiritual space. It was a blow. And so I was fighting for my life. I fought for breast cancer for 4 years. From my day one of having got the call to my last surgery, I fought breast cancer. But in the midst of me fighting for my life, I noticed something. I noticed that a lack of females that look like me. I noticed a lack of a support group. I noticed a lack of a sisterhood. I had a wonderful, and I say it all the time to Sheena, you hear it, I had a wonderful family and friends, but I needed more. I needed ladies to really know the journey that I was going through. I needed someone that was relatable to say, you're going to go through this, you're going to feel like this. Without my family, because my family was going to give me pleasantries. They were going to tell me that you were okay, you look amazing, you look nice in your bald head. They were going to tell me all that. But I needed more conversation to say, will I miss my breasts? Will I feel the sensation of my breasts not being there? How would I act when I'm starting to date? Because I wasn't married and still not married, but how would I act when I'm starting to date? How would my physicalness affect my emotions? And so I needed someone who was going through the process. And so there wasn't a support group, I thought, or knew, that didn't speak to me. And so I thought, if it was somebody, if I'm looking for a support group, there are other ladies looking for a support group. And so voila, I started Tracy's Bio, which means beautiful inside and out. And so in essence, I started a support group to help ladies fight, navigate, pray through their way of fighting for their life and fighting for not only breast cancer, but as you mentioned, other forms of cancer. So that's how I started 10 years ago.
Wow, Tracy, that is an awesome story. Thank you for sharing the story. I think oftentimes people do look for others who can understand and relate, especially when it comes to the journey of cancer.
Right.
They call it disease, but some people say dis-ease because there is a level of discomfort that you do experience, some insecurity, some shame, hair loss, and it really takes a toll on your emotional health, right? And so I'm glad to know that you've started an organization for women who can relate and support each other, because it's greatly needed in our communities, right? And so when you think about your organization, what are some of the things that you offer? What are some of the, and this is kind of an organic question from your sharing, things that you're offering that you do for women and their families to keep them encouraged during the process?
So first, it started out as simple as I wanted to help ladies remain beautiful while they went through this abnormal process. And so everybody knows your hair fall out, all of your hair follicles, everything falls out. You don't have no eyebrows, no eyelashes. So it really started out that I gathered up a bunch of hairstylists, some makeup artists, and I said, can you help these ladies feel beautiful while we're going through chemo, radiation, and surgeries? And so we all came together. We made sure that we had services to supply them with wigs or makeup. And that way, so at least while I am fighting for my life, I don't have to look like I'm fighting for my life. I don't have to look like what I'm going through. And it started out just as pure as that, just making sure that the ladies knew how to apply eyelashes, make sure they knew how to draw on their eyebrows, and just have a nice wig. So when they're out in public, they can look pretty. Right. And so it started out just as simple as that. But as it evolved, it sort of kind of took a life of its own, and it kind of was moving fast. And so I had people come up to me, and people calling me, people DM in my DM, people that I meet, or people calling me saying, I have a girlfriend who needs your services. And so it evolved into a support group where we had functions on how to enter the dating pool, how to be able to, I apologize, I'm in a room where it goes dark, I apologize. And so how just to help your families navigate through your journey, because we all know that it takes a village. And so it started out just conversation in reference to helping ladies cope with their emotions. I always said that I'm available. I'm available to 365 days, 24/7. And so people will call me as they enter chemo. I'm nervous, I'm afraid, and I will talk them down. I will talk them about my experience. I will talk them about it's going to be okay. So I tried to be a soothing ear. I tried to be an ear where I knew exactly where they were coming from. And so that started into me coaching. And so now I started to coach ladies in reference to, you're going to expect this, you're going to expect that. How's your spiritual life? How is your family coping with this? And then it turned into books. And I do know how it turned into books. Somebody asked me to tell my story. And I was like, nope. No, I am not telling my story. And they said, well, listen, you have a wonderful group of ladies that you coach. You think they're willing to tell their stories? And I said, well, maybe they're willing to tell their stories in hopes of helping other ladies know what it's like to go through cancer. Because prior to that, no one really knows like the ins and outs of cancer. Oh, I see her with a bald head. She must be going through chemo. Or I see her, my skin fell off, and I was telling ladies that, or how to treat their burn in essence. Or I had a prosthetic and I was trying to figure out things when I go to the beach, which is my favorite thing. How can I cover myself up, or how can I wear a bathing suit? And so I thought that it would be appropriate for me to gather up 10 ladies, start the Pink Sister Chronicles, where we really had raw conversation, stories that most people didn't hear about. Most people, didn't hear, oh, my boyfriend didn't want me because he said he didn't want a half a woman. Or hear stories of, my family members turned their backs on me. Or my job didn't give me any time off while I was going through chemo. So in essence, they fired me. And so I just wanted to have a book that really spoke about the trueness of breast cancer, and especially in our community, because we're a little different. In our community, we're a little different in regards to trusting doctors, going through the process, or even going to a doctor. And so I wanted just to have a book to speak to that. And one book turned to 2 books, turned into 3 books. So I'm actually working on book number 6. Can you believe that? Little old me working on book number 6. And so it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
Listen, Trey, why not you?
I know, because, and again, this is my favorite scripture. Genesis 50:20. What was meant for bad turned into good. And so I didn't think on April 16th, 2013, when I got that call, Mrs. Smith, you had breast cancer, that I would be in the front of breast cancer and helping those that fight breast cancer. My plight at that particular time was just to live, was to fight this good old fight so my daughter knew what it was to stand and have your head up high when you're going through something of this magnitude or diversity. And so I just really wanted to be a example for her. And so little did I know there were people watching. Little did I know there was people, on the sideline saying, wow, look how she's handling this with grace. And so I wanted to I wanted to tell the stories of other people, because again, when you're going through breast cancer, you kind of think you're all alone, or cancer, excuse me. You think you're all alone. You're thinking you're having a woe is me moment. You're having a pity party. And there are tons of ladies out there that are willing to support you, willing to hold your hand, willing to pray for you. And I wanted Tracy Bio to be that organization, to speak about life, to speak about how we can support each other. There are other organizations out there, but really I wanted to encompass our sisters to make sure that they knew that you have a sisterhood that has your back when it comes to fighting cancer. And so I hope I'm relaying that message to those that are going through cancer or even going through something. You have a sisterhood that is willing to, move your hair when you are actually, your stomach's not feeling good and you're vomiting, right? Mm-hmm. Who's willing to help you change your dressing on your surgery after you have a mastectomy, to willing to hold your hand. It's just that I'm willing to do anything to make that person feel better when they're going through cancer, because you often feel like you're alone and you're going through this by yourself. Mm-hmm. And just to give you an example, there's a young lady on book number 1. Mm-hmm. She was 15 when she was told that she had breast cancer. She, fast forward, she coached me in my mastectomy in reference to what I was going to feel like, how I was going to feel, the scars, the after effect. And so when you think that, you can't learn from someone of a younger generation, she actually coached me in reference to what I was going to feel like and or look like when I was going through breast cancer. And so it's not just for someone who is over 40. You figure my range is from 15 to 80. And so it's just a sisterhood of helping those that are going through the fight.
Wow. Tracy, I admire you, and I've always told you that I admire you, because you don't, no one knows what you're going through, right? Mm-hmm. You give so much strength to women like myself who had experienced that at a time, and to other women who are going through it. And so when you really, you have this servant posture, and I know all the women lives that you've touched, they are very appreciative of the things that you've done, that you continue to do even thereafter, and even for those of our sisters who lost their wings, how you still pour out love to their families and hold their memory up for those of us to remember all of the amazing things that they embodied when they were here. And so, Tracy, I thank you for that work, because I can imagine the things that you have to hold, space you have to hold for people who may not have survived, but may have been given a kind of a grim prognosis. And I imagine that you too have to do some of your own self-care to manage that for yourself. And so as we begin to wrap up, can you share with our audience, for those of us who are watching, who may be even doing some of the similar work that you're doing, can you share 3 things that you've learned to give hope and inspiration to those women who are experiencing it, and to those who may be even doing the work that you're doing, helping other women? Can you give some words of wisdom of what to do, and perhaps maybe even what not to do?
So, as you mentioned, the hardest part is loving someone and then losing them to this dreadful disease. And so I have had my share. That is probably the most negative thing that I go through when I'm doing this journey and doing this work. I have lost some people that I love tremendously, and it still affects me. It still hurts my heart that I lost them I, as you mentioned, I coach their families and I coach their friends, and I try to stay in contact with those, because the hard part about going through this is that people are there, but they're on the scene, but behind the scenes, when the lights are off, and behind the scenes when there's no one around, or the person has gained their wings, we still have this beautiful person's memory. And so I try to keep that memory alive. Is it challenging? It's very challenging, because every time I hear someone gain their wings, it reminds me of the masses of ladies that lost their lives to cancer and breast cancer. And so that is the most challenging thing for me. But I do, as you mentioned, try to stay in contact with the families. I still love on the families. I still reach out. I still invite them to functions. I still post their daughters to say that we love them. And so that is the most challenging part. But the best part is that they have given me such insight in reference to what life is supposed to be. They give me such insight in reference to live your life to the fullest. They give me such insight in reference to don't take your life, this journey that we on, for granted. And I am thankful each and every single day that God has placed me in this position to be able to help those that are going through the fight. So one of the things I can say is that just live your life amazingly on purpose. And so I struggle with that. I'm a working woman. I try to balance work, try to balance my time on taking care of myself. And as any other female, I struggle with that. And I'm trying to get better with that. But I just would say, live your life to the fullest. Please live your life to the fullest, because the next day is not guaranteed. And so that is one thing that I can say. The second thing is that, and this is probably to the families, when you are going through, or when your loved one is going through breast cancer, don't hide. Don't say, I'm going to give her space. We need for you to love on us. We need for you to check on us. We need for you to just to say, I brought soup over, and we need those cards. So when I'm feeling better, I will read the card. I need a phone call. I need to say, I'm going to take your daughter to school like my friends did. I need for you to say, listen, you just had chemo today. I'm going to feed your family. I'm going to make sure your family has food. I'm going to send over scriptures to you. And so for the families out there, please, when you hear that somebody is going through this, please do not shun away. Please be upfront. Please make sure that they know that you're there. If they're too sick, they'll tell you that. But we need our family and our friends to just constantly check on us and constantly make sure that we're okay, whether it is a phone call, whether it's a prayer, whether it's a card, whether it's some soup. Just make sure that you check on your family and friends. And the third thing is that when you hear cancer, it doesn't have to be a death sentence. And I say that with the utmost respect. When you hear that you have cancer, part of your fight is your mental space. And so you have to mentally be armed. You have to spiritually be armed and mentally be prepared to fight the greatest fight of your life. And so you can't think, woe is me. You can't think, what if? You have to take one day at a time, put one foot in front of the other, and you got to fight this fight, because you are here for a reason. You are here to show the next person that I can do it with grace or not grace. You are here to show the person that it can be done. And I hope Tracy Bio is that organization. I hope Tracy Bio is that group of ladies. Or I hope that I am one person that is trying to make a difference in this really crazy world we live in, to show somebody that when you have cancer, you still can live a purposeful life. You still can get up every single day with new eyelashes on. You can get up every single day with new hair and just show people that I am bigger than this. I am bigger than this C thing, and I'm going to give it my all and fight with the fight that I know that I have in me to beat this. And at the end of this, the story that you tell is going to be amazing. Someone's going to hear your journey and say, you know what, that's me. And if she did it, I can do it too. So I need for you to say that my mental, my spiritual, and my physical being plays a big part in me overcoming cancer. And so I hope this helps somebody.
Tracy, I'm back here all teary-eyed because that means a lot. Because I imagine many of the viewers can relate and experience and can appreciate those wise words that you just shared, because too many of us have experienced or may be going through it even as we speak. So thank you for sharing your experience, sharing what you're doing, how even in the midst of the pain you found purpose.
Yes.
That's what crazy. And still rise. And still rise.
Thank you so much.
I love you. And
I love you too.
I will see you soon. Take great care.
And thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
Before we leave, can you tell us how we can connect with you with your social media handles?
Sure. I'm on Facebook and Instagram at Tracy's Bio on Facebook and Instagram. And also my website is tracysbio.org. And so you can go on tracysbio.org, you can register, you can ask somebody to reach out to you, you can volunteer your services, because we always need volunteers, or you can go on Instagram and Facebook and you can DM me and you can see the wonderful things that we're trying to do in the community. And you know what? You really can just call me. My number is actually on Instagram and Facebook. And if you know somebody that is going through it and struggling and need a little bit of help, need a little bit of encouragement, you can just say, Miss Tracy, can you please just call this person? She is going through it and she would like just to relate to someone that is also going through it. And I am here. I am an open book. I hope that my story inspire others. But I'm here and I'm willing to take any kind of calls, any kind of visits. I'm just here as a support group.
Thank you so much, Tracy. Thank you for all that you shared. You have an amazing rest of your day.
I love it.
All right. Are we enjoying ourselves thus far? Are we enjoying ourselves thus far, ladies? Listen, we just experienced some real life teachable moments. The importance of pivoting, the things that you may have planned may not always go as planned, but you have to shift to make things happen. And so I'm hoping that even in the midst of our technical challenges, that you still receive some encouraging words of inspiration to help you move forward, or maybe you can even share this with someone else who may need to hear this information as well. How are we feeling out there? Let me hear from you. Are you enjoying yourself? Are you learning something new? Are you feeling encouraged? I know I am. In fact, Tracy had me back here wiping my eyes, because to meet her is to love her. She is such a giving vessel, and she exemplifies, and still she rises. Even in the midst of the face of cancer, she still sees fit to help others. And so next up, we're going to take a quick break and come back for our next speaker, Lynette Trawick. Stay tuned. Hello, 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 my sis Lynette. How
Hello.
are you?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I am good. I am good. Having to do a lot of pivoting. You know, when technology works, it works. And when
You-
it doesn't, it doesn't. Things happen
Listen,
out of our control.
God's plan.
But still she rise. And still she rise, right? This
Yes,
we're living in real time, rising.
exactly.
I'm so glad to see and have you. Thank you for taking the time out to hang out with me for a little bit to talk about how you still rise, Lynette. Who
Yes,
are you?
ma'am.
A little bit about
Oh
who
my goodness.
you are.
Who am I? So God bullies me. I always say that. He bullies me. He makes me do a whole bunch of stuff. Um, so I am very multifaceted. I'm a kingdom entrepreneur, but first I am a servant. So whatever it is, wherever it is that God calls me to be, that's where I am. So I'm a wife. I've been married for 9 years to my wonderful husband, Daniel. I'm a mom of 11 plus. I always got to add the plus in there because I'm one of those village community moms, and somehow I turn around and it's always kids somewhere around me. Um, but I am also the founder and executive director of IMU Inc., which is my nonprofit that serves women who are living with HIV, and helping them to build their support systems and just get stronger in their diagnosis. Um, I'm also an author of a book from diagnosis to destiny. Yes, yes. I have my copy here in front of me too. Um, I do a lot. I am a program coordinator for a after school program in Baltimore City. I currently reside in Baltimore County, originally from Philadelphia. So I'm a Philly girl, Philly John at heart, always a Philly John, forever a Philly John, no matter where I'm living. That word is never going to be out of my vocabulary. It's funny now now that I'm in Maryland, I use it and people are like, what did you just say? So it's funny, but yeah, so I wear a lot of hats. I'm just a lover and I'm a servant. So like I said earlier, wherever it is that God calls me to be, that's where I am.
Amen. Amen. You know what? I was just saying to our previous speaker, Tracy, how even in the midst of our pain, our life experiences, we still find purpose.
Yes.
There lies some strength, there lies something that we could use to help give back. And so I thank you for creating the organization IMU. Considering yesterday was National Women and Girls HIV Day,
Yes.
I celebrate with you as a person living with HIV. That's huge for us to be able to share and breaking the stigma, in the world where we live, where there's still stigma that plagues this illness, where there's disinformation out there, where there is this judgment and preconceived notions of what it is and versus what it's not.
Yeah.
Heavy weight that we carry to teach and educate and still show up and say this is what it looks like today, and
Yes.
still survive and thrive, living an amazing life with HIV. So my hat's off to you, sis, and all of the work that you do
Thank
in
you.
this area. So with that being said, tell us more about your organization and how it came to be, and what services are you offering, things that you're doing with that, things that you're looking to do with that, and really the vision of IMU Inc.
Yes. So IMU, you mentioned stigma. That's always been a huge focus of IMU, and starting with self-stigma. I think a lot of times, and I can attest for this for myself. I was diagnosed with HIV November 18th, 2008. And I remember when I received my diagnosis, all of the HIV stigma that I had prior to being diagnosed was now on me. Prior to being diagnosed, I thought it was a dirty disease and only dirty people got it. And I didn't have anything to worry about because it didn't affect me or people who looked like me. So now here I am with this diagnosis. What do I do with that? So when I talk about stigma, it starts with self first. IMU has a heavy focus on education because I believe that that's where stigma can be eliminated first. So we got to teach people first. We got to teach people about your diagnosis so that now you can be armed, because the reality of it, stigma is not going to disappear. There's always going to be someone, ignorance is always going to be the case. Someone either doesn't know. You have a couple of different categories. You have people who don't know but want to know or are accepting of the information and the education. And then you're going to have those who don't know and don't really care to know, and they're just going to sit in their ignorance and still believe what they want to believe. So with those people, we have to arm ourselves with the education about what our HIV looks like. And I say our HIV because my HIV may not look like your HIV, may not look like someone else's HIV. There's so many different versions of it. Speaking of Women and Girls HIV Awareness Day yesterday, I was speaking with a number of different women. And one thing that I shared was, you may see HIV on the top because that's what I choose to show you. But just like an iceberg, that's just what's on the top that you see. All of that other stuff under the water, that's what I'm really dealing with. That HIV isn't really an issue for me. However, it could be flipped for other people. It could be the HIV that's underlying, and it's a huge issue that's showing up in a different way. Right. So I believe that education is definitely key. Self-education to reduce that self-stigma. IMU also does HIV prevention from a very, very different dynamic. A lot of times when we think about HIV prevention or sexual health and things like that, especially when it comes to teaching our young people, we automatically think of abstinence, wear a condom, right? Those are the first two things that pop into people's head when they're thinking about prevention. However, what if I'm thinking about 15, 16, 14-year-old Lynette, right? That 14-year-old Lynette, yeah, you say, hey, if you're having sex, if you're sexually active, you should be wearing a condom. Or, hey, you're too young to have sex. But what if 14-year-old Lynette, and I'm telling you because this is what 14-year-old Lynette thought, doesn't value herself enough to say, hey, I need you to put this condom on? What if I don't even know where to get condoms? What if I'm afraid that if I suggest a condom, now this is 21, 22-year-old Lynette. What if I'm afraid that if I suggest a condom, even in this relationship that I'm in, it's now going to cause some kind of abuse, or some kind of backlash on me? So I can't say that. So what IMU does, we do prevention from a very different perspective. So building up self-esteem, building up self-worth, making sure these young people, and I say young people, I focus on women, but our boys need it too, making sure that we all understand we're worthy. We're worthy enough to take care of ourselves. We're worthy enough to protect ourselves. We're worthy enough to say no, even if it's in the final hour. I don't care if we're laying there with all of our clothes off and something clicks in our head and it's time to say no. We're worthy enough to say no, and keep ourselves in safe situations. So that's the type of prevention that we do. So building up self-esteem, building up education. IMU has a program called Sis Me Too. Sis Me Too is a sisterhood program where we gather women. It's kind of like a peer-led girl talk. So we just kind of come together and talk about things that we're experiencing. So things from different relationships that we may be in, things from different traumas we may have faced, but it's literally like we're sitting around talking about stuff. But that's a form of prevention too, because how many times have you had a conversation with somebody, they say something, you're like, girl, me too. Sis, me too. And you're not, you're thinking you're the only one experiencing this mess.
That's why
now
transparency is so healing, right?
Exactly. That transparency. You're thinking you're the only one dealing with this stuff. But now here's finally somebody else who can relate to me. Just like what Tracy said. You're creating that space where somebody else can relate to you. And it's like, okay, I can breathe now because now I can talk to someone who's experiencing this. So that's one program.
In that same way, even our earlier speaker, Abigail, mentioned about the importance of community. And so what you're doing is building community for women to come together and youth to have these.
It's so important.
Conversations.
It's so important. One of the most common fears is a fear of isolation. We don't want to be by ourselves. We don't feel like don't want to feel like we're by ourselves. And sometimes that even happens in a room full of people. But because we're not transparent and because other people aren't transparent, we still feel so alone in our stuff. So that's what Sis Me Too focuses on. We have our annual program. It's a faith-based program called Beyond My Diagnosis, where we bring the community together to celebrate. So I created that around what I call my rebirth day. which is the day I was diagnosed. We have speakers who are either living with HIV or somehow directly affected with HIV. They come out, they share their stories. We have performances, we have vendors, we have food. We just have
a good
a
old
great
time
time.
too.
A great time. Tashina was one of our guest speakers last year. So it's such a great event, and it is a faith-based event. However, we bring so many different people from so many different faiths to just come and enjoy each other. You know, while my background is Christian, I've had Muslims come and they have such a great time, and they tell me it's one of the best events they've ever been to. So we invite everyone from the community to come out to that event that we have each year. Yeah, so those are our two main programs that we're doing right now.
That's awesome that there is a resource, something out there that people can go to really be embraced and not judged, to learn, to be educated around what HIV is and what it's not. And I think, this topic is so sensitive to myself and many others because, the stigma out there is something else. And like when you talk about educating the youth around, prevention, I often tell the adults that, we need to stop having sex first and asking question later, because sometimes that's how it happens too. It's not always a person living with HIV. In fact, we probably are the safest person to interact with us. We're aware of our status, we're on our medications, and we're undetectable. And for those who are educated about what that looks like, he looked good, she looked good, and they do the do. Don't ask no questions, and everybody's situation is different. We don't always get tested. Sometimes the fear, because of the stigma of getting tested to know your status, unfortunately keeps the virus going. And so I applaud you and all of the work that you're doing to educate people about get tested. And so those of you out there, viewers, I'm gonna ask you, do you know your status? Have you been tested? It's not the same disease as it was 41 years ago. In fact, Lynette, if you don't mind me sharing, I know you're public open with this. You're married. And you have children. Can you speak to that, how that came about, life after diagnosis, after your diagnosis, that you still had, a child and you're married? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Of course. So when I was diagnosed, I was still dating. It was prior to my husband. That was a roller coaster ride. And that's one of the questions I'm always asked, like, well, how did you tell this person? And I remember the day that I was diagnosed, I was dating someone. I had just started dating him. And I called him and I said, I need you to come over so we can talk. And he came over and I disclosed my status to him. And I'm just in tears because I don't know anything about HIV. Again, in my little bubble of a world, HIV didn't exist. Young Black women don't get HIV. So now here I am. I'm just crying tears and telling him this. And I don't know if I'm going to die. So I can't even reassure you if you're going to die, And he said, well, I'm sorry. I don't know anything. I can't do this, and he left. And that was so hurtful. So then that was like, okay, so do I want to continue sharing this? Do I want to tell people? Do I say things day one? Do I not? So it's a roller coaster. It's a case by case, when it comes to disclosure. You have to really assess, is this someone that you need to tell? Because sometimes we think that dating equals sex equals I have to tell them. I may be dating you to see if I'm interested enough first to even think about having sex with you. So I don't need to tell you in the first place. What if you got some crazy features or some crazy personality trait that I don't like, and then it's like, okay, date over. I don't need to tell you anyway. So you really have to assess it based on who you are. But then my husband, it's funny because I met my husband a month before my diagnosis. However, we had a professional relationship at the time. I was his daughter's hairstylist. So I was seeing him. He was bringing his daughter to me every 2 weeks. We formed a friendship, talking every 2 weeks and in between. And we became best friends. And then 5 years after my diagnosis is when our relationship began, and it was one of the most, even before our relationship began, I didn't tell him until I was diagnosed in 2008. I disclosed to my husband, my then best friend, in 2012. Our relationship began in 2013. So even before our relationship began, it was the support was amazing. I had no issues. He was asking me different questions. He was going to the doctors with me, asking the doctors questions, things like that. So it was really amazing. And now we've been married 9 years. My husband is HIV negative. All of our children are HIV negative. They're all very educated when it comes to HIV. It's a regular conversation that we just, it's just a thing. You know, mom has HIV. Okay, so what? Mom takes medicine. Okay, somebody want to go get her some water so she can take her medicine. It's not a, oh my goodness, death cloud hanging over my house as a result of it. But I believe that just comes from what I said earlier, me making sure that I was educated enough to get rid of that self-stigma. So now I'm not creating that stigma within my household. Somebody mentions HIV, oh, my mom has that. Let me tell you about it. It's just whatever. So that's how it is. Yeah, and the same thing with my husband. Oh yeah, my wife has HIV. I don't, but we support each other and whatever. So yeah, that's our environment at home when it comes to HIV.
I just love your love story, and it gives women hope that love still can happen, even with the diagnosis, even with the HIV. You can still find love, you can still have children, and you're fine. You can still have the normal, whatever normal is. But because I think
normal is,
diagnosed, you feel like you can't have those things that you're that, but no.
Or some people think that because you're living with HIV, you need to go find somebody else that has HIV and you two just be together. First of all, that's not a thing either, because there's different strands of HIV. So that's a whole nother topic, you know, and just the fact that as long as I'm undetectable, we have U equals U, undetectable equals untransmittable. So I take my medication, I go to the doctor, get my lab work, make sure that my viral load is as low as possible. So it's not traced in the test. And now because I'm undetectable, I cannot transmit HIV sexually to anyone. So I find comfort in that, you know, knowing that my husband won't contract HIV as long as I'm taking care of myself.
You actually going into the third question, but I wanted to say yes, that part too. I've heard that before about dating someone similar. I'm like, that's not a thing, but yeah. I think that goes to speak to like the lack of knowledge around HIV. And so with that being said, can you share 3 facts? I think people don't know what U equals U is. I don't think people realize that you can no longer transmit it once you're undetectable. I don't think people are aware that we're no longer taking cocktails, but there's really 1 pill a day. And now they even have monthly injections.
Yeah.
Can you speak to 3 facts to educate our viewers about what HIV is versus what it's not?
Yes. So what HIV is for me, it's a rebirth. HIV is not a death sentence. HIV is what called me into a new life with Christ, a new purpose. HIV is not, like you said, a whole bunch of cocktails. I'm actually, you know, considering the shot. They have the shot that you do. I want to say it's every other month now at this point, but it's been kind of changing. We can live lives, full lives with HIV, regular, normal lives with regular, normal issues outside of HIV. We can find love. We can be married, all of those great things. And one new thing that has just come to life, which I absolutely love, the CDC has updated its guidelines around breastfeeding and HIV, which is so exciting to me because when I had my children, after my diagnosis, when I had my child after my diagnosis, I was not able to breastfeed. That was not an option. It was like, no, 100% no from all of the doctors. And now the CDC actually tells the providers that they need to support women who are choosing to breastfeed while they are living with HIV. So they have so many different, protocols around it now. Same thing when it goes back to U equals U, making sure that the woman is undetectable so that they can go ahead and breastfeed safely. I have a couple of friends, a couple of different people that I know who have successfully breastfed even while living with HIV. Their children are happy, healthy, big, strong, all of that good stuff. So yeah, I think those would be the 3 things. Oh, another one, PrEP. PrEP is actually what I like to refer to as kind of like a birth control pill, but for HIV. So if you think of birth control, you take this pill daily in order to not get pregnant. PrEP is a pill that you take daily in order to not contract HIV. that's available for anyone. It's not being marketed as much as I would like it to be for women, but it is available for women as well. So if you feel that, you may be at risk, maybe at a higher risk for HIV, it could be that you may be in a relationship with someone who is living with HIV. I know it's good for just anyone who thinks that they may need that extra layer of protection against HIV. PrEP is a great option.
Thank you so much for sharing those facts. I want to add to the U equals U. People realize, well, how do they get undetectable? If you take your medication as prescribed consistently, I think it's for like 6 months or longer, then you're undetectable. So, yes, I've been undetectable for the past 12 years.
Yes.
Just take your medication and you're good to go.
Yes. And so the medication and going to the doctor regularly, because that's definitely, they go hand in hand, because at one point for me, I was not undetectable. So my viral load had increased even though I was taking my medication regularly. But what happened was my body built up a resistance to a particular type of medicine that I was taking. But because I was going to the doctor on a regular basis, they were able to catch that and see that and switch me to a new regimen, so that then I became undetectable again. So both go hand in hand. So yes, take your medicine on a regular basis, but also going to your regular doctor's appointments.
Awesome sauce. Thank you for sharing your story, giving hope, and giving some facts out there to folks who may not be aware that, this is the new kind of way. This is how, life is after the diagnosis, but also there's hope and it's no longer a death sentence.
Yeah.
And so before we close out, can you give folks your handles of how they can contact you?
Of course. So you can contact me on Instagram. You can just look up my name. It's Lynette.Trowick. And you can also follow my my organization's page, IAMU.Inc. That's IAM.INC. And on Facebook, the same thing, IAMU Inc. And you can also go to my website, LynetteTrowick.com, where you can find out all of the things that God forces me to do. All of the things that he calls me to do. Right. All of the things that he bullies me into doing. No, all of the things that I get to do. All the things that I'm privileged to, all the ways that I'm privileged to serve different capacities. You can also order my book, From Diagnosis to Destiny, on my website. If you order it on my website, you'll get an autographed copy. It is also available on Amazon.
Awesome. So thank you for that information. Lynette, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Thank you.
Viewers, before we leave, we're going to watch a commercial, and then we're going to jump into our next presenter, which is a pre-recorded session with Dr. Me out of Hampton. So stay tuned. Hello, 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 and welcome back. Are you guys enjoying yourselves? Listen, my heart is so full. I'm trying to fight back the tears. Each presenter interview that you've heard, these women were invited because they have had such an impact on my life. Crossing paths with these women wasn't by chance. I believe it was ordained, and they have enriched my life in such a mighty way that I don't think they realize it. And so the women you're seeing today has a forever place in my heart for the work that they're doing, that they've done and continue to do, including this next speaker, Dr. Miata Hampton, who we had the pleasure of meeting beforehand because she was unable to come here live. And so we decided to do a pre-recording of her interview. And so without further ado, Dr. Miata Hampton. Hello and welcome back to the And She Still Rise Summit. I am excited to introduce to you to Dr. Miata Hampton. Hey, Doc, how are you?
How are you? I am doing well. Listen, I'm still rising. I'm still rising.
Exactly. I'm so excited that you're a part of this conversation today. So let's get into it, guys. I know you've been waiting to hear from our next speaker, and here she is. Love her dearly. And so I'm excited to hear the gems that she's going to share with you today. And so without further ado, Dr. Miata Hampton, who are you? Who are you?
Dr. Miata Hampton is the founder of Pivot to Success Academy. At the Academy, that's where we serve busy working women who are working a 9-to-5, who are building business at the same time, who feel like they lack the time, clarity, they feel overwhelmed and undervalued. The Academy is there to serve them, to show you how you can scale your time to earn money, to get the clarity that you need to push forward in business, to help you turn your chaos into cozy and rediscover your worth by providing you the tools and the resources that you need so that you can live life on the next level. I am also a 8-time Amazon best-selling author. I'm so super proud of that. I am part of a series and anthology called 13 Steps to Riches. So I am a writer, I'm an author, I am a coach, I am a wife, a mother, I am a nurse practitioner by trade. So that is who Dr. Miata is.
Wow, Dr. Me. I'll call it Dr. Miata. We call it Dr. Me for sure because we go back some time. But Dr. Miata, wow, you do a lot. Thank you for sharing all that. You know, your writing, your authorship, your business, your mentorship with women and coaching, and your motherhood, being a wife. Those are a lot of hats that you have that I'm sure many of you as women who are viewing this can relate to. Being a mom, being a wife, working, trying to start a business, and everything else that we do, cooking and cleaning that add to our things that we do, and shopping and just planning and strategic thinking, all of those things that it sounds like you have to do as well with all of the hats that you wear. And so when you think about that, I'm thinking like, that's awesome. One, kudos to you for all your accomplishments, but how do you balance it all? How do you balance motherhood, being a wife, being a nurse practitioner, which means you work full-time or you still are employed and you have a business? How do you manage all of that and practice self-care?
Wow. Finding balance or finding harmony is definitely a journey. You have to be intentional about it. It's not something that just automatically falls in place. You know, as you continue to live and continue to grow and continue to add to your life, who you are as a person. If you're in a relationship with someone, you know, you add to that relationship and growing. And if you have a family and if you continue to add and build to the family, it is so important that you learn how to harmonize all the pieces and the parts of your life. And so for me, there are multiple things that I do, but I would say the number one thing that I do or have done or set up in my life is to make sure that I have support, not just support with, you know, my spouse, my husband, not just support through my children, but support from my job. So support in every avenue and every aspect of my life. I actually sit down and have conversations with my children. I have conversations with my husband. Like when I'm getting ready to do things, like even now, I was like, hey guys, here's what I'm doing today, and here's what I need from you. And so my husband was so gracious enough to take the girls out so that I could do what I needed to do. So I'm not, talking and cutting my eyes and, so that I could be focused. And so the one main thing that I do is make sure that I seek out support. I have conversations with my children. I have conversations with my husband. I have conversations with even my current job when I'm doing things. And I do that because I want to make sure that I am being present in all areas, all situations. So when I am with my children, I want to be present in that moment. When I'm spending time with my spouse, I want to be present in that moment. When I'm at work, I want to be present in that moment. And when I'm by myself alone and I'm developing those self-care skills, or I'm attempting to, refresh and decompress and just, taking some time to be away to revitalize, I am very intentional about being present by myself, being present with myself, being in tune with myself, and even talking to myself and asking myself questions so that I can get a fresh perspective about where I am and where I'm going. And so I would say those are my two, there are multiple things, but for self-care and balance, those are my two go-to things, are making sure that I have the proper support and that I am present in every avenue and aspect of my life.
Wow. I have a question for you, and this is kind of an organic question that I kind of thought of as you were sharing. I imagine even in doing that, even in having supports and even in having conversations with your kids and, with your spouse, and even talking with your place of employment, I imagine there are moments where you're just tired, right? How do you regroup? Like when you have moments when you're just exhausted, how do you regroup to still maintain the motivation to move forward?
Ooh, yes, absolutely. When I am tired and I'm not hitting the goals or seeing the kind of results that I want, I definitely take some time out and I listen to myself and try to figure out, like, why is it that I'm tired? Like, where are these feelings coming from? Am I doing too much? And because I'm doing too much, I'm exhausted. Have I not focused in on the things that I need to be focusing in on, or am I just everywhere trying to do everything at one time? So am I working on the business? Am I trying to build the website? Am I trying to build brand awareness? Am I trying to write a book at the same time? Am I submitting my chapters? Am I trying to go live? Am I trying to create social media content? Like, in those moments, I definitely take a step back and I analyze it and say, okay, are you trying to do too much? And your body is literally shutting down and telling you, listen, we can't handle all this right now. And we can't process this all right now. So I definitely do introspection. I take a step back and I look at everything. And then I determine, like, what is my number one goal? Like, what is the next thing that I need to do in life and in business in order to see the results that I want? And then I focus in on that one thing, as opposed to trying to do everything. Because when you're a solopreneur, listen, you are definitely doing everything. You're doing the editing, you're doing the recording, you are doing all things business when you are a solopreneur. So definitely taking a step back and trying to figure out, like, wait a minute, because I feel like I'm having some procrastination. So if I'm procrastinating, procrastination is just a symptom of something bigger. So I take a step back and try to figure out, like, why am I procrastinating? Am I overwhelming myself? Am I trying to do too much at one time? And I take a step back and figure out, okay, let me pick 3 things that I want to work on. And out of the 3 things, what is the one thing out of all the 3 things that I can do that's going to allow me to see the results that it is that I want? And then the other thing is, the 2 other things are that I don't listen to other people's opinions. I do not listen to the opinions of other people. And anytime I am bombarding myself with negative talk, because that's really where it all comes from. When I'm bombarding myself with negative talk, I give myself a word to reverse and combat my thoughts and anything that does not align with my future, or anything that I am saying that does not align with the mission and the vision of my life and my business.
Well, that was powerful. I heard two things out of what you just shared. Was pretty much one, know your capacity, knowing when you're spreading yourself thin, and when you find yourself with those unhelpful thoughts, people call them stinking thinking, or some people may call it, various names that we have, but you challenge those thoughts and kind of, I guess, really begin to affirm yourself with a different thought process than the one that can be really disempowering. Thank you for that. I think that many of us may need to hear that. I'm sure many of you watching may have found yourself overextended, tired, exhausted, and knowing your capacity is really important. So thank you for that. I guess that sounds like that's part of how you have been able to balance it all, because it's important to know your capacity, because if not, you will find yourself very overwhelmed and stressed. You know how we say, I'm stressed, I'm tired, and all types of things we say, right?
Absolutely. And it is so important that you know your capacity. You have to be so intentional in like whatever season of your life that you're in, or whatever season that you're entering in. You have to be so in tune with your capacity and your bandwidth. Like, you have to know when to stop. You have to know when to say, like, this is enough. And if you take on one extra thing, ask yourself, do I have the capacity to pull this thing off? And if I don't, and if the thing that is presenting itself to you, whatever that opportunity is that's presenting itself to you, if it's something that aligns with your business, but you know that it's going to stretch yourself thin, then you have to take inventory of all the things that you are doing and say, what is the thing that I can take off my plate? And is this something that I can delegate to somebody else? Listen, I'm the queen of delegation. I'm the queen of get somebody else to do it, because I don't have the capacity or the bandwidth to handle that right now. And if you really want it to be done, and you want it to be done correctly, and I'm telling you I don't have the bandwidth, get somebody else to do it.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Delegation and, well, know your capacity, delegation. You said something else. Alignment. Absolutely. Those are some gems there. We need to be in alignment with really pretty much with ourselves, and to know our capacity, but also delegate. That's ouch for me. I'm gonna say ouch. I don't know about you guys if you're saying ouch on the other end, but sometimes I find myself saying things like, I'll just do it because I'll do it faster, or I know what I want, so I'll just do it so I can get it done faster or quicker. And so then I'm not trustful of allowing help to help all the time. Am I alone in that? Let me hear from you guys out there. If you can relate to that, comment in the section that you can you relate to that? I think many of us fall victim to, like, I'll just do it. I'll do it faster. Never mind. I'll feel like explaining all of that. I'll just do it. And then we enter into that space of overextending ourselves and all of that jazz. So thank you for that. So Miata, so as we begin to close out, can you share some words of wisdom to our viewers, to our women who are mothers, who are wives, who are solopreneurs, and all of that? Talk to them a little bit about kind of summarizing and giving them some words of advice.
Absolutely. So if you're someone who is feeling overwhelmed, or you're feeling like there's not enough time in the day to do all the things it is that I want to do, or I would like to do, I just want to encourage you to do some inventory, do some introspection, and make sure that you're not putting more on your plate, because we, as entrepreneurs, we do this thing where, like, we listen to other people who have been there before us, that they might have done something, a tip or a tool or a resource that they've used, and it worked for them. And that's great, but that doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. So you can try some new things, but if you've tried it and you've tested it and you've given it enough time, and it's not working for you, your business, it doesn't work for your life setup, then listen, scratch it and find the thing that works for you. Find the thing that works for the way that your life is set up. Number 2 is learn how to delegate. We've got to learn how to start trusting people in our business. I know for me, I'm very intentional about learning all the aspects of my business, learning all the ins and outs of my business, learning what I like, learning what I don't like, so that when I hire people on, I can train them, as opposed to bringing someone on and just assuming that, oh, well, you said you know how to do website design, so yeah, go ahead, knock it out the park. And then when they present the information back, you like, that's not what I asked you for at all. So it's so important that you learn how to delegate, and in that delegation, make sure that you are giving people exactly what it is that they need, as far as the instruction and the direction and the flow, whatever it is that you need. Make sure that you are giving them all that information. And the other thing is, it's okay to say no to some stuff. Learn how to say no. Learn how to set healthy boundaries. If it's something that's going to have you feeling like, I don't have enough time, I got to do all these things, I don't have enough time to do X, Y, and Z, I can't really focus on this area of my life because I'm trying to do this thing. Well, if that thing does not align with where you are, or if that thing does not align with your future, then it might mean that you need to re-examine that thing. And that thing could be people, places, and spaces. If it is taken away from who you are becoming, then it might be time to do some inventory and some introspection and say, do I really need this? There's a thing that I love about rockets and rocket boosters. I always tell people this story about how when a rocket launch is happening, there are actually three things that are happening at the same time. You have people who have gathered there to spectate, you have people who have gathered there to participate, and then you have the rocket launch itself, right? And so you have to know how to put people in proper places in your life. Know who your spectators are and know who your participators are. Your spectators are there only just to watch the show. They're there with some popcorn, and they just there to spectate. But your participators are those people who want to see you win, who cheer you on, who, when you're at your lowest, they can come alongside you and give you a word of encouragement. That's your support system. And then you have the actual rocket launch. When a rocket launches into orbit, it has two boosters that are connected to it. When the rocket gets so far up in orbit, the rocket boosters fall off, and that's okay. They've done their job. So be intentional about knowing who is designed to go with you in your next, and who are those people that need to just simply fall off. It's okay to say no, and it's okay to set healthy boundaries. Listen, if that's you in the chat saying, I need to learn how to set healthy boundaries, that's me all day, every day. Type me in the, let me see it. Let me see me roll. That's me in the comments all day long. I want you to know that you do not have to feel guilty about releasing people into their destiny and allowing people to become whoever it is they need to become so that you can get to the next level.
Wow, that was Dr. Miata Hampton. I thank her so much. When we had the opportunity to meet, below you'll see her contact information if you want to reach out to her and follow her, to be found on Facebook and Instagram. She also has her website here, drmiataspeaks.com. So if you're looking to learn more about her, to learn more about what she does, feel free to reach out to her social media handles or the information that you see before you. So, wow, guys, we have heard a lot. And as I was sitting here, I was reflecting on the things the speakers have been saying thus far, starting with Mrs. Abigail Patrick. She talked about the importance of building community and how her passion is around building community. That really has been kind of put into her as a child growing up and living in Trinidad and living here in the US of A. She recognized the importance of community as she tries to help others create the same. And then you have Miss Tracy Smith that also talks about the importance of having a village of supports when you're going through difficult life experiences like cancer or any type of illness, that support is necessary, and how it's also important to live your life to the fullest, even in the face of adversity. And then we heard from Lynette Trawick, who is a stigma fighter, who spoke to us about HIV and what it is and what it's not, and the importance of also living your life and also really loving on yourself, even in the midst of it, because the things, the stigma and the judgments that many people face who are living with HIV have to contend with, that it has an impact on how they see themselves. But also, she gave us encouragement that HIV is no longer a death sentence. You can live an amazing life, have children, marriage, the normal things that people do, whatever that normal is. So I thank her for normalizing just some of her experiences. And then we heard from Dr. Miata, who talked about the importance of self-care also, but also how to harmonize your life when your plate is full. And I love the analogy she used about the rocket and the boosters that fall off, because a lot of us get caught up in our loyalty to others, or to our loyalty to people, places, and things. And as we're trying to continue to rise to our next, oftentimes our loyalty to things keeps us from rising, because we are afraid to let go. And letting go can be painful. But and still she rise. And so she talked about the importance of, it's okay if people fall off. It's okay to change circles. It's okay to love folks differently as you continue to press forward. And I think that's something to be said that we all could kind of reflect on, of how my rocket is, where my rocket is aimed as I'm rising, and the rocket boosters that need to fall off. You know, as I sit here, I'm reminded, and I'm so still full when I think of, of And Still She Rise. I am reminded of my own journey. Many of you know my story, and to sit here with you guys doing this summit, I would have never imagined in a million years that I would be doing this, from a young girl who once stuttered, who was afraid to publicly speak, and that stuttering progressed to fast speaking. And so as a result of the fast speaking, I would then internalize what people would say or how they would respond to me as a result of what I would say. And on some level, I began to believe that I wasn't smart enough, because I can't even articulate my thoughts, right? How can I be smart? But and still she rise. And so here I am, even facing life adversities. I'm having survived and battled cancer, and I'm living an amazing life, being HIV positive, and still I rise, and still you rise, despite what you may be facing, despite what you've gone through, and still you rise. I know oftentimes things happen in life and we forget about ourselves. We quit on ourselves. But I'm here to tell you, sis, we're coming for you. The time is now. It's no opportunity to wait. Continue to rise. Birth those dreams, write that book, speak, go back to school, apply for that job, change careers, let go of whatever that person, place, or thing may be, and still she rise. Ladies, the passion I feel, I'm ready to burst out in my seams, because this is such meaningful to me, because there's so many of us out here who are quitting on ourselves or settling because we're just scared or tired and we don't have the energy, or we don't know what to do and everything's okay, so we become complacent. Oh, but maybe that's not your story. Maybe you feel I'm okay where I am, but I do want to connect with other like-minded women who are doing amazing things so I can continue to rise. The truth be told, we're all rising in our own way. But for those of us who are struggling, sis, keep rising. You can do it. You are capable. You are love. You are light. You are intelligent. You are innovative. You are who God says that you are. Be, do, create, and still she rise. On that note, we're going to go ahead into a commercial and we'll be right back. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to And Still She Rise Summit. Woo, y'all, can we get a woo-sa? Can we get an amen? Can we get a yes, ma'am? Can we get And Still She Rise? Can you say that to yourself? And still she rise. As a matter of fact, I want you to tell yourself, and still I rise. Do you believe it? Do you feel it? And still she rise. I am having an awesome time as I'm listening to all of the stories and testimonials of our guest. And I am looking forward to talking with our next guest who will be on soon. But before we go there, let me hear from you. How you have any questions, any thoughts? Is this good information? All of that jazz. I hope so. Our speakers really worked diligently just to prepare in their minds and their hearts to share with you all on this day. Because like the title of the summit is called And Still She Rise. And so our next guest is here, and I'm excited to introduce to you Miss Nia Hamilton.
Hello, how are you?
Hi, Nia. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. How are you? Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm thankful that you believed in this mission and you wanted to support the summit. And I am thankful that you gave us some of your time. I know that you're busy, you're an amazing, powerful mover and shaker. I say, I tell people who know we have friends that comment that Nia is moving and shaking and she's just doing the daggone thing. And I've told you when I first met you, I don't know if you know this or not, but you're my mentor. Remember that conversation? You're my mentor.
Yes. You're so gracious. Bless you.
So to our viewers, this is Miss Nia Hamilton. And not only is she a mover and shaker, but I believe that she's just so courageous and she's so wise. And when she speaks and she's full of knowledge and she's doing amazing things. I'll call her the non-for-profit guru. But before her becoming that, she has some life experiences too. So it was like, you had to work stuff out like we all have, right, Nee?
All of us, yes.
So
all of us.
So let's get started. Who are you, Nia? Who is Nia Hamilton?
Dr. Reed, this is such a loaded question, right? And I always say to myself, anytime someone asks me this question, it's always around the premise of like, who am I and the evolution when this question is being asked, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is, subject to change, right? Mm-hmm. Anytime I'm asked this question because, and I say so because we should always be evolving and always changing. So who I am yesterday is not going to be who I am today or next year or 5 years from now. And so I'm really intentional about when that question is asked, have I evolved? Have I changed? And in such a positive and a good way. And so when I think about that question, who I am, first and foremost, I would love and pray to believe that I'm among the chosen of God, right? That I will be in a number, right? And so that's first and foremost. I'm a mother, I am an entrepreneur, I'm a friend and an advocate, especially for those persons centered in who have what they might feel like not having a voice, right? So advocating for equality and equity and what that looks like in healthcare and education, anywhere where there's some inadequacies or lack. And so I would think or love to believe that my life's work has been to serve.
Thank you for sharing that. And you said something really important. The last part of your life is kind of reflective of one who served. And I think oftentimes in life, we get so caught up in the things of life that we forget to serve. We don't know what that looked like, right?
Yeah. And I'm mindful of that, right? Because the story could always look like me, what I want, what I need, you know what I mean? And so I heard this conversation, this preacher, a post I saw on Instagram, and he reminded us that the oil is not for us, right? The oil is the anointing, the overflow, right? It's what we have to give to others. And so I'm constantly being conscious about, am I serving and am I giving of the oil? Am I sharing what has been given to me as a talent, a gift, and an ability? Am I being a proper steward of those gifts, right, that God has made or given or, chose to bestow on me, right? And so I'm always conscious about what that looks like. And then knowing that I am doing the will, I am being of service, that the desires of my heart are in line with God and it's being met. So I'm getting what I need in the process of serving.
I like that. And you said something important about being aligned with what God pretty much has for you in terms of your purpose. I think we forget about alignment.
Right.
I think once you're aligned, things flow. What God has for you comes.
Yeah. And it's not just aligned, right? It's centered, anchored, right? Which is very much, because alignment can look different, but when you're anchored, rooted, centered, planted, that's the thing that holds you. That's the thing that, is foundational.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, Nia. Yep. And so when I was putting together this summit, and your name came to mind because I thought of you in all of our conversations about entrepreneurship and our conversations about how do you do it? Where do you start? When is it time? When should I leave or transition to become a full entrepreneur? And OMG and all of that. And as I said, wow, she's doing it. And I hear many people who desire to, go into full-time entrepreneur. And I'm like, I know somebody who did it very well. And I love watching you blossom. So can you talk about that? Like, what was it like? How did you get to a place when you realized it was time to transition from your 9-to-5 into full-time entrepreneurship? Like, what was it like? What were some of the challenges? What some things you had to plan in mind, body, and spirit?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I want to say I felt like at the time that I did not make an emotional decision, right? Although a lot of things were happening around the time that I had decided or allowed myself to even give myself headspace to conceive the fact of leaving, right? Because that takes a lot as well. Like when I make this transition, Nia, have you properly planned, prepared, made provision, right? And also being open to listening and making sure I was fully in tune of what God was saying to me when it was time for me to depart, right? because I can say this can feel very emotional right now. Like I can say like a lot of things were happening. I was coming to the end of my time at the employer, right? And I had to think about, is he telling me to leave right now? And how will I know that it's time to move? So I really had to pray about it and not make this an emotional decision, or not look at it as if like, okay, I'm here now and there's nothing else left to do. I'm kind of bored. Like, is it ready just for me to just go on to the next place? Because at the time when I had met you, being at that particular institution, right, that was probably the second employer where I stayed the longest in my job space. And so for me, the goal was to always, you know, from graduate from college, the goal was to always, you know, work in the field, be a sponge, learn as much as you can, right? Process. What does that look like for me? Is that also meeting my, not just professional needs, but my personal developmental needs as a human being, right? When I'm going into these jobs, am I building myself so in a way that when I do decide to go into full-time entrepreneurship, these are qualities and things that I've honed and worked on that I can say that I've acquired outside of who my job is or what my title is in that career path, right? Will I be able to use these same skill sets that's, you know, transitional, or, you know, can I use these things that's going to make me better as an individual in my own personal leadership development outside of a title? And so when I made the decision to leave, I was really making sure that I had planned. I knew what my exit strategy was going to be. I was really thinking about how I wanted this to look. And then a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, right? And it was like, did I have my financial, you know, investments in place? Did I make provision to sustain my household? You know, will I be able to also manage the task of being a first-time, full-time entrepreneur and be a mom, right? And be someone who constantly now, I don't work for an organization, I'm working for myself. And so that same level of commitment, excellence, leadership that I can now pour into my business, I wanted to make sure I had the same commitment, the same drive, the same passion, right? And so I really had to assess what it is that I wanted for this next phase of my life, how I wanted it to look, to also have some contingencies in place. Because not right away, I knew this was going to take off. I wasn't naive to believe that this was something that's going to hit the ground running, right? I knew I was qualified. I knew I had the skill set, but making those connections outside of what my title was to gain the trust of those people who be new clients to say, this is my track record. And so I was constantly looking to develop myself, even going through the process of building my credentials. So a lot of that went into the planning and making sure that the transition was going to be optimal as much as I could take the onus for.
Yeah, you know, whenever you talk to me, I take notes because you dropped different things. So you said something that stood out to me. First, you said you in the planning stage, you transitioning, you had to listen. And when I heard that, I was thinking, wow, that's so sometimes we get in our head and not really what
right
maybe God is saying. Is this the right time? And I think oftentimes many people may transition too fast or too soon, not putting things in place. As I appreciate you saying that you had to take a step back and just truly listen to, you know, what the Spirit was saying. Is it time
right
to move? And so thank you for that. That it was like a reminder to listen, to be in tune to God and what, you know, you're being led to do. But you also mentioned about having some contingencies in place. And I'm like, ma'am. And I think sometimes as those of us who are wanting to do entrepreneurship, go into that, you know, down that path, there's an assumption that I'm going to make it overnight, it's going to happen just like that.
Yeah.
Can you kind of, I know this is an organic question rather, can you like, honestly, like, how long did it take and how long, you know, you had to continue to do to create that path for yourself? I think people think it should be a year or two, and it may be longer.
Yeah. So when I first allowed myself to even conceive the fact that I was going to leave, right? And let me just say about the growth that went behind that decision, right? Because I had been at other employers and I was much younger and I was just jumping, right? I was leaving when I felt like I was ready to leave, right? And I was not seeking God's counsel when I made those decisions, right? And so sometimes it looked like me having to sit out because there wasn't a game plan, right? There wasn't a strategy involved. I just was like, they were very emotional decisions. And so I'm thankful for the maturity to say, okay, I've been in that position before. I don't want to be in that position again, because this time it's about more than me. I have a child now, right? And so every step has to be strategic. Like I really have to not make myself the center of this, but if I do decide to move, to leave, it has to be the best decision, the best strategy, the best game plan, not just for me, but for my family and for what I want in the future. And so when I thought about it, this was happening like around May of 2019, I started contemplating to leave. I didn't give the resignation till the end of July. So I had several months to really sit down with myself and say, Nia, all right, you're going to do it. You made your mind up. Here I am. And I remember like the day I made up my mind to say it was May 3rd. I remember the day and the date because there was an incident at work. And I was very in my feelings about the incident. And I was like, this is an emotional response. Like, don't allow it, right? And then I was wrestling with that. And then all of a sudden, the Holy Spirit moved and said, go. And I said, you ain't got to say but one time, God. You ain't got to say but one time. I heard that. It was clear. You said go? Okay. So I was settled with it, right?
He said what he said.
You said what you said. And I heard it, right? So, because I was really in my head like, oh, bro, that was an emotional decision. Like, don't do it. Like, no, give yourself some time to cook. God was like, go. I heard it loud and clear. I said, okay. I said, I'm not in my feelings, God. I'm like, we here. You know what I mean? And I'm like, okay, I'm not about to do this dance with you. I know I heard what I heard. And when I tell you that night, as I got home and settled, and I thought, and I said to myself, and I felt it again, and it was a wash over me, like a calmness. And I said, oh God, I thank you. And I just remember being in full tears when I came to the, conception, like, this is it. It's time. It really is time. I felt it. Mm-hmm. And I remember that being the best night's sleep of my life. Mm-hmm. I cannot remember the peace that I had in that moment. And next morning I woke up and mine was made. And I was like, this is it. Write the letter. Mm-hmm. And I wrote the letter and I put it away. And I said, I still have some things I need to do. And God was like, go ahead, start doing it. Right. And so I was planning things out. I was looking at, because this is always the big question too, about when you leave, people are like, what about your health benefits? Mm-hmm. And I'm like, there's hundreds of places to get health insurance, right? Mm-hmm. So I was like, and I didn't want to, be naive to anything, right? But also in that moment, I was very cautious about how I moved because I knew people were watching, right? And I wanted to be a good steward, even of the process, to say, God was like, show them, right? And I was like, okay. And so I was saying, like, I've done my research, I've done my homework. I know I can buy a health benefit plan through, the Affordable Care Act or whatever. Like, I knew what steps I had to go through. What will COBRA look like for me? Like, I was very strategic about what those next steps are going to be. Financially, was there anything that I needed to do? I made contingencies in place. I reached back out to some recruiters who I had worked with in the past. Mm-hmm. I was like, let's get something on the books. Keep me in the loop. If I need you, we'll call, we'll set some things up. They were all in place. They were like, you got to need whatever you need, no problem. Let us know when you're ready. I was like, thank you, God. You have made this so easy. And the fact that when I used to do contract work, it was like, whatever the conditions and terms that they presented, I had to accept. But now I have proven myself. I have honed my skill set. I was great at what I did. And so now God turned that thing around to work in my favor. And I had authority over where I wanted to go and how I wanted to move, what I would accept and what I wouldn't accept. And I had came to understanding and value my worth. And so all of this was like a mature moment for me. And I was thanking God for getting me to a place of spiritual and emotional maturity, right? So that was the biggest lesson out of all of that, is that I took my emotions out of it. And he just kept saying, you're going to need that, right? That goes in your toolbox when you leave, because entrepreneurship cannot be emotional, right? And you have to keep telling yourself that it's business, it's not personal. So when people say they want out of a contract, or when you say you will not take a client, it's not personal, it's business. You may not like that person, you may not care for them, but if I put you in a position for it to be a teachable moment, that's where I need you to serve. Regardless, I don't care how you feel about it, right? Show up, be a professional, teach. I've called you to teach. There's no work around that. You know, you can't get out of it. This is what the contract looks like between me and you. Between me and God. You will teach. This is where I send you. This is where you will go. Right. And so in that moment, I was just like, okay, take the emotional out of it. I'm not gonna, feel some type of way of somebody if I get a no, right? Because I've learned that that's a part of the growth process too. Hearing no. Okay, that wasn't the right contract, that wasn't the right situation. And having to say no to clients. This is not a good fit. Just like any other relationship, whether it's personal or business, this will not be a good fit. And so sometimes you have folks that come to you and they want your services, but when I have to really think about, if you come to me and you ask me to write you a grant, I have to be very real with you, right? Because I'm going to look at, I have my own criteria. Like, you might tell me that you meet this criteria because this is the work that you're doing, but my criteria is the one that's going to be accepted amongst the funder, right? So if I say, I'm looking at your financials, I'm saying you haven't filed a 990 in the last 2 years. I can't go by that, right? Because I know this will not pass the application process. If I submit this to a funder, you'll get pushed to the bottom of the list, right? Because you don't have those administrative processes in place. And so I have the right to tell a client, no, like, I will not write a grant for you. You are not financially apt to compete for a grant, but I can get you to a place to position you and get you ready to receive a grant and manage it. And so I had to do a lot of that in my consultations. People just couldn't understand, like, I'm paying her. I want her to write a grant. She told me no. I'm like, yeah, I have integrity in my work too. So I'm not just out here being the person who's going to take your money just because you have it. Like, no, I need to know this is a lasting relationship. If I want to be tied to your business as my client, right? Because it's also about the integrity on both sides. Me being honest with you did not put you in a position where you're further damage yourself, and for you not to be in a position where you're reckless. So that's the understanding of, like, when I'm working with clients, that is the criteria, that is the mindset. Will this be a good partnership?
So in essence, is boundaries for your business.
Yeah, any relationship, whether it's personal or a business, yes, absolutely, there should be boundaries in your business.
I like that. Thank you for sharing that, because that's a lot to think about, especially for those of us who are in business, that we don't have to take on every client, and we should be. I think here's this wording in alignment to what we say we're doing, want to do, and if we're not in alignment with your vision or what you're offering, then we should say no.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's
not a loss. It's not a loss. It's not a loss. It's not. It really is. It's a gain, absolutely, because it's always about the lesson, and constantly remind ourselves, like, all money isn't good money. You know what I mean? And so, but at the end of the day, I'm really intentional about who I build partnership and collaboration with.
Yeah. And I appreciate you saying, as you were transitioning, that you use your transferable skills, all of the skills that you
absolutely.
Job, all of the things you've learned just in life that could help you in what you're doing, that, those of us who are watching, we all have transferable skills.
All of us. And the thing about it is, and I always say this, God didn't make you a monolith, right? You are dimensional. Use everything, whether it's your personable skills, your soft skills, however they want to label it, your life experiences, your education, your professional experience. Use everything, right? Because I always say, I know what the struggle looks like. I know what the trauma looks like. I know from my own personal experiences what that looks like, and being in a position to serve, to change that for somebody else. That's really the goal for me. And so out of that, like I said, continually coming to God, like asking Him, like cleanse my heart, remove the emotion, put me in a position, God, where I'm serving, I'm doing my absolute best for me not to get caught up. I've always had the mindset of whenever I went to go work for an employer, that I was not a part of the organization. I treat every job as if they're a consultant, as if I'm their consultant. I don't come in, I don't get tied up in the office politics. I remove myself from situations and people because I want to get the full picture. Because I have to keep reminding myself, this is not about me. God's going to bless me in the work I do, right? But this is about that I go in and get it right. So that it looks like coming in, breaking down a process down to scratch and building it back up. That's what I need to be able to keep my focus on. That's what I need to be able to do. And I've accepted that some places I'm not going to stay for a long time because my time is to move, but it's expired. I never get comfortable in places. I want to always be open to hear when God says move. I don't want to be attached. I don't want to block my blessing. Wow. So I go in, I do the work, and the blessing out of that is that I get the lessons. He blesses me because as I build my skill set, that contract gets bigger, the finances, improve. And so that's the blessing in doing the work, right? Yes. Itself, and it's of integrity, and it's of sound mind, and it's of good judgment. It's from a good place. And so I always tell people at the end of the day, integrity and principle is the best business practice there is. You can't buy that.
Integrity and principle. Yeah,
you can't.
That. Yeah, thank you so much. So before we close out, can you give the audience 3 of your gems? You always drop gems. 3 gems you can tell women out here who are watching who are looking to transition. 3 things they should do and shouldn't do as they transition from a full-time to full-time entrepreneurship.
Yeah. And I would just say always have a contingency in place, right? Because even though I love the fact that people are really confident and they go in and say, there is no plan B. My plan A is going to make it. And I respect that, right? But for me, I'm very practical, and I know what my life is set up and how it looks in terms of what I have on my plate. And like I said, I never want to be operating out of a space of ignorance or of lack or, being naive. And so I always tell people it's like to really sit down and plan what they want that exit strategy to look like, build out a timeline, give yourself some time, don't be in a rush, right? If that process looks like 3 months, next year, whatever that looks like, however you need it to work for you, what your finances look right. You know how that looks for you and your household and what you need to have in place in terms of making it sustainable for you to make the transition, right? And so having that in place, a timeline, a financial goal, a financial plan, and what do you want the next opportunity to look like? And so what do you want that business to look like? Because even as you're preparing the exit, you should also be building out your business strategy of whatever that program, that service, whatever that product is going to look like. Have I spent ample time and consideration of what I want the business to look like? And so have on all that in order of your affairs, to have that in place will, help you kind of minimize, the damage, we would say, help you mitigate as much risk as possible going into your process of coming through the exit strategy.
Thank you, Nia. I definitely, like I said, I always take them notes down when you talk. Having integrity and principle, I think that stood out to me the most when you're doing business with people. and walking in your calling, the purpose that God has given you. So thank you for sharing with us today, Nia. So before we close out, can you tell folks how they can find you, how they can get in contact with you, your social media platforms?
Yes. So I'm on Facebook and Instagram. So it's under NH, my initials for my first and last name, NH Consultancy LLC. That's on Instagram and on Facebook. And then I'm also, my website is niahamilton.com. And then you can always email me at info@nhconsultancyllc.com.
Thank you so much for sharing with us today. God, if you enjoyed what Nia was, the gem she was dropping, I encourage you to get in touch with her, connect with her. When I first started out in my business, Nia wasn't really supporting me. I said, Nia, I need help, and she helped me put together a standard operational book of procedures, SOP.
Yeah.
For business, and very thorough. And thank you for that. And
thank you. And I definitely want to say thank you, because Tashina, Dr. Rita, was one of my first clients after leaving our employer at that time and coming into the consultancy, building it out. So I thank you. And it was many folks who supported me in that process who were employees at the time or former employees, and they were looking to make their transitions. And so, or they were looking to branch out going into business as another opportunity. And so I really want to say thank you so much for always thinking about me, at this capacity when these platforms. And so I appreciate it. And I thank you, as always, for your friendship and for making this opportunity available. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Nia. We will be in touch.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your Saturday. Take care.
Thank you.
Wasn't that good? Yes, the gems being dropped. Are you catching the gems being dropped? I need you to say, and still she rise, whether it's in business, whether it's overcoming an adversity, whatever it is, and still she rise. Yes, loving it, loving it, loving it. Next, we have our guest, Dr. Marcia Whitaker. Hey,
hello, Dr. Tashina. So good to see you.
Yes, ma'am. It's good to see you also. Thank you for accepting the call to share on this day for the summit, and still she rise. I appreciate you giving up your time to speak some life into the ladies or the viewers watching. How are you today?
I am good. I the sun is shining, and that always kind of gives me a pick me up, but I'm usually kind of joyful. Early mornings aren't the best. I kind of flow at night, but I like the morning time, and so I'm ready.
Awesome sauce. So let's get right into our conversation, shall we? Dr. Marcia, can you tell us a little bit about who you are? Who is Dr. Marcia?
Ooh, that's a good question. Thank you for it, though. Let's see. Who am I? So I am a physician, and I'm also a master destiny life coach, and I'm the CEO of Girl Boss Life Academy. And I am so happy to share. I'm also a #1 best-selling author, and I'm also an international speaker. But with that, I'm also a mom. I also, I run the business, and I do lots of things. But if I could just share the things that I learned, and this kind of goes a little bit into my story so I was married for 19 years, and I was a victim of emotional and verbal abuse, and I didn't know it at the time. You think things are just rough. It's just marriage. And I decided to leave. And it wasn't until I was 50 and I ended up in a domestic violence type workshop. And we went to one of the sessions. We thought it was for the adult women. It was actually for adolescents, but there were none at that particular conference. And so when I walk in the room, there was a slide that said, "Who are you?" And so I'm thinking, I'm going down the list of all the things that I am. And thing is, I was saying nouns. I was saying the roles that I played. But then when she went to the next slide, it was talking about, I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I am an overcomer. I am excellence. And so whenever I get asked, who am I have to land there, because that's the thing that takes me to my next level. And so that's what I would want to just impart to those that are listening. Who are you deep down inside? Because that's the core. That's the thing that's going to help you get past and get through all of the blows, the gut punches, the surprises, the things that happen in life, and you're like, I don't understand why this happened, but it's that core.
Thank you for that. Actually gave me goosebumps, and I could be a crybaby, and I feel the tears behind my eyes, because you're so right. We do oftentimes, when asked that question, we give the nouns, but we're more than just that. We're more than what we do, what we're known for. So I thank you for that reminder for many of us who sometimes may even struggle with even identifying who we are. Some of us get lost in that space of, I only find my value grounded in what I can do for folks, right? And we're more than that. So thank you for kind of helping us dig a little deeper into that question, right? So, Dr. Marcia, you battled, you've overcome, and still she rise. You wrote a book.
Yes.
From birth. It's a book and a workbook, so to speak, within. And so, can you talk a little bit about first the title, Marked from Birth, and more about why you wrote this book? What are the goal behind writing this? What impact you're hoping that this book have to the readers and all of that?
Yeah. So the book is called Marked from Birth, and is a transformational journey from flawed to fabulous. And the thing that sparked it was, I have a birthmark on my face, and it's a green patch that kind of goes here and down through here. And so you may not be able to see it so well right now, but it was something that plagued me when I was in school, when I was coming up, when I was an adolescent, when I was in middle school. And what it did, it caused me to question who I was. It made me define myself by other people's standards. It made me second guess everything. And it made me, in a split second, if someone stared at me 1 second too long, my mind automatically went to, they were judging me about this birthmark, and something was wrong with me, and I should not be wherever it is I was. And so that then, I got, quote unquote, got over it when I was in college. I got to the point where I was like, you know what? People are going to love, if people are going to love me, whether or not I have this birthmark, the people, kind of go whatever. But the thing I didn't notice was that, and this goes true for others' flaws, I guess, it rolls over. You get, what do you call it? It doesn't just stay compartmentalized. It rolls over into other areas of life. And that is what set me up for that relationship that I was in. I was in a place where I dated somebody who liked me instead of somebody I liked. And that set me up to be in this situation where, and this is the mindset thing, where I was always trying to make people like me. And by doing that, if I had a problem, if I had an issue, I would try to dummy it down. I would try to get over it myself without speaking on it. I also believe that I could not be mad. Everyone else could be mad, and they could do and say whatever it is they wanted to say, walk out, do whatever, have a fit. But I believed that if I did it, that was somehow connected to the love that I would then receive. And so it's just, when I say it out loud, it's like, wow, there's so much intertwined. There's so much mindset, I'm going to say errors that happen, but it now sets you up for continued drama, trauma, and quote unquote failure.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Dr. Marcia. Because as you were speaking, I think about women, young and immature, who have had some life experiences, like you said, the drama and trauma, and some of us who deal with like um, visible scars or even illness or disabilities or, scarring of some kind. It does plague you and it does impact how you see yourself. And it does set the standard of how you allow people to treat you. And so I thank you for sharing, just being transparent in that journey. Because I think all too often, some of that stuff you describe, I can relate to that. And I'm sure many of you watching, you're right, it does set you up to find yourself in situations that aren't healthy, but it also sets you up to settle, to really not know your worth, to really lose yourself in just the mess of it all, if you will, right? And I'm reminded of that. It's a scripture that says there's beauty in your brokenness, and we don't always see it, right? Because we're in it, you think it's ugly, it's not attractive, who's, oh my gosh, you want to hide and all of that. And so I appreciate you sharing that. Whenever someone saw your birthmark, he was like, oh my gosh, they talking about me. And we do that. We do that. Oh my gosh, they're looking at me. Oh, they're talking about me. And it gets exhausting at some point. But you don't know it until you fully, I guess, grown to accept yourself, which is why I love your Flawed to Fabulous, because that in essence speaks to how you begin to embrace your flaws and all. Right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And this is an organic question. Can you just share a little bit about like your process of accepting yourself, your flaws and all?
Yeah. So I had to understand it. First, I had to just accept it at face value. And then as the years went by, now I start to understand why it is that it's there. And so this is what I share in the story in the book, is that the birthmark goes over the trigeminal nerve. And so, as I said, I'm a physician, but I'm going to share, it's like it's the nerve in the face that gives feeling. And so, and it's over my forehead, it's over near my eye, and then my nose. And so I have a very keen sense of smell. I also can, because of me being in that hurt state, broken state, I'm always aware of my feelings, but I'm also super aware of other people's feelings. So if I can recognize immediately when someone isn't good, someone is having a bad day, something just happened, I saw, and so now they're in this broken state. I'm more concerned with making sure they're okay than my own personal feelings. And so I will go out of my way, and with that, my vision is very clear when someone is struggling. So what that then did, it made me very compassionate. It made me very empathetic. I can see things and hear things that people don't say. And so what it does, it helps me be, one, a great physician, but more importantly, it made me be a great life coach. And so now, coming through full circle, now I'm able to help people in a different way, because immediately if someone says, how are you? And they say whatever they say, I'm like, no, something, I pull them aside. Hey, what's going on? Or I connect with people just in my normal flow. And so that is a gift that I have. And so there was a time in my life when I was in residency where I had a dermatologist who, he named what I had. It's called the nevus of Oda, after the physician who coined the term. And he was like, you know what, you could have laser surgery to remove it. And I'm like, really? I'm thinking, after all these years, I can actually get rid of it? But what actually happened is, now I started doing research. And so, yeah, they're saying they can partially remove it, and it can come back after a couple of years, and there can be scarring, right? And there can be hyperpigmentation, right? And you can have keloiding. So I'm sitting there thinking about that thing. You telling me I'm going to do all of this, and I'm going to it's not going to be full. It could come back. I could get some scarring and I may have keloid. I'm like, you know what? That's no, thank you. But what it did, I had to accept it and live with it, because even if I had gotten it removed, it in part was imparting my power that I was now giving it away. And so that's what we do all day long. We give away our power. And now that dims our light, and it also takes us out of our purpose.
Wow, you are so right. We do give our power away because of our, I won't say inability, because I think sometimes it comes with a lack of awareness, but and I'm not knowing, we give it away. But then as we embrace the knowing, as Auntie Maya says, I call her Auntie Maya Angelou, when you know better, you do better, right? But we don't always know how long it would take before we do better. And so when we begin to get to know who we are and embrace those things, begin to take back the power we gave away, right? Dr. Marcia, that was so good. I like that.
Take it back. Take it back. I want everybody who's listening, just take back that power. Go get it. Because we put it down. It's up to us now to go get it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. And so, Dr. Marcia, you wrote this book, Marked from Birth. Do you mind sharing an excerpt from your book and kind of giving some words of some gems to the viewers, to give some hope, encouragement, inspiration, all of that, so they can take back with their power.
Absolutely. So I have my my teacher's copy, right? And so it's all marked up, and I use it actually for a women's ministry, and it has been so helpful and enlightening for the women that have come through. So I'm going to ask you a question. I may be dating myself, but do you know the show, the Andy Griffith Show?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good. So I don't know if we have any younger people, but anyway, it was a black and white show back in I don't know, when I was coming through. It was probably the 70s, but it was already on already. So I would say maybe, I don't know, maybe the 50s. And so what I share in the chapter is called The Mental Prison. And I start talking about the Andy Griffith Show. And I said one such series that I remember is the Andy Griffith Show. And in terms of the main characters, there was Andy, and he was the sheriff of the small town called Mayberry, if you recall. And there was Aunt B, or I could call it Aunt B, Barney Fife, Gomer Powell, and of course, Opie. And there was Andy's forever friend, Helen Crump. And I wonder if they ever got married, because she was on there forever. But anyway, so my favorite inspirational character from a life coaching perspective of the show was Otis. I'm not sure if you remember Otis, but he was the town drunk, and he would make a cameo appearance every so often. During his scenes, he would simply show up unescorted at the jail where Andy worked, looking disheveled and also clearly under the influence of alcohol. He would sashay through the front door, past the desk, and through the multi-purpose courtroom. He would go on to announce himself as he checked himself into the jail cell. He would then proceed to lay on the hard metal cot and sleep off his inebriation. How is any of this relevant to the book, you might ask? Simple. I was my own Otis. I allowed my flaws, those situations, problems, insecurities, and challenges to cause me to retreat back into bondage, essentially to a type of jail cell, to confinement, to a comfort zone that wasn't actually comfortable. In other words, to my own personal prison of my own creation and design. Maybe you can relate. In those moments, the change started to happen. Although I could forget it for a while, my flaw would become my life, my sole focus, and my utter obsession. I would become completely consumed by it. The situation would compound itself when someone would remind me by giving me that look, the one that said I was different, the one that somehow said I didn't belong, the one that said that I was damaged, and at least that's how I perceived it at the time. It changed how I thought about myself too, how I interacted with others. It also changed what I chose to accomplish or engage in. I made the flaw mean that I was ugly, that I was inferior, that I wasn't good enough, that somehow I caused other people to somehow feel badly on purpose because of how I looked. In turn, it made me not look people in the face, and definitely not in the eye. It also made me not raise my hand in front of people, whether in class at first and then eventually on my job. And I remember waiting to ask my question after class or after the meeting. In my younger days, it was the reason I didn't run for student government. I chose the Action Council instead because no one else wanted it, and therefore I could be elected completely unopposed, all occurring without drawing too much attention to myself, which was the added bonus. My imprisonment made me question my existence. It's sobering to think about it now, but that was a lot of self-imprisonment, that is. And so now back to our dear friend Otis. When he was back to normal, or at least half sober, he would then reach his hand through the jail cell and grab the keys off of the wall. He would then proceed to unlock the door to the jail and simply let himself out. Next, he would bid his farewell to Andy and then exit unhindered, just as he had previously entered. Similarly, just like with Otis, we all have our own keys as well. Yet the irony of Otis's situation with the jail was that some days the jail cell had never been locked in the first place. This is definitely a metaphor for many of the perceived prisons we lock ourselves into as well.
Dr. Marcia, I was bust out in the shout when you mentioned about the keys and that the prison door wasn't even locked.
Not even locked.
Come through with that. You're so right. So often we think it's locked and we suffer in our own mental prison. But Otis took his keys back. And this is where you're talking about taking back your power. Take the keys back. We have keys. But many of us don't realize that the jail cell isn't even locked. My God. Dr. Marcia, thank you for that story. Like, it's truly, thank you for that story. You know, it's different in reading it than hearing you say it. You know, it's like, wow, it hit different.
Mm-hmm.
That story. So I'm sure other folks out there, we have some Otises in the audience, you know. So I guess the message is take your keys back because the jail isn't locked, right? You have the power to take it back. And so, Dr. Marcia, thank you for sharing your excerpt with the audience. And so, with that being said, do you have your contact information? Any other words you may want to offer that people can contact you and so forth?
Absolutely. So what's on the screen is my website. It's drmarcia.com. And again, that's MARCEA.com. It's also my Facebook page, InfoBloom HLC. I'm also on LinkedIn, Instagram. You can also text or call me at 410-705-7851. And you can also get a free gift. There is in the book, the back of the book, I give my top 100 beliefs that are going to get you to live the girl boss life. And so that's also free downloadable. You can go to drmarcia.com and you can get that free gift.
Well, you have the audience responding that you just preached and you got keys in the chat. So Thank you for dropping them. Yeah. Your book is available on Amazon. So if they wish to purchase your book, they can go to Amazon and either type in Mark from Birth or simply type in your name to also order your book. Dr. Marcia, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. Many of you don't know, you may not even know yourself, but I look up to you. I simply adore your story. You're so gracious. You exude grace, and so we have similar stories. So I think that's the connection that I share with you. And so thank you for sharing with the audience and for your support.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Tashina. I love you. Thank you so much for the invitation. This has been amazing. And I wish you all the best in your success in your business. I see you all over the world. I think, maybe can you just share for the audience about your book? I know the Manifesting Her. Just share a little bit about that. So
yes, I published my first book back in April of last year, Manifesting Her. And and to your point, Dr. Marcia, that's why I said we have similar stories. I too found myself in a situation where the way in which I spoke as a child, because I stuttered, and then it progressed to fast speaking. I didn't think I was smart enough, let alone to write a book, let alone to speak publicly about anything, because of the looks I would get from people. The looks like, what would she say? Or I would completely be ignored. And so I would then internalize that. And it did show up in other areas of my life where I too was in class and wouldn't really speak up. Or actually, even though I knew it, I wouldn't ask because I was afraid of how I would sound. And thank goodness for the village of pushing me, say, girl, you better apply to school, apply to grad school. Even though I was scared, as they say, I did it, right? And so Manifesting Her is like the birthing of me becoming me, or still becoming, and then sharing how I what I do and how I still do it. And in the blessing of this all, Dr. Marcia, and this is where the God shout come in. When he laid this on my heart 7 years ago to write, I have book 2 coming out. Manifesting Her, the anthology, where I'm having other women also share their stories of manifesting her too.
Yes. I love it. Congratulations. I know it's going to be awesome.
And so, so I'm proud of that. And so, a lot of this is how I connected with you too, in similar circles of us both manifesting her.
Absolutely.
Evolving. And so thank you, Dr. Marcia.
Thank you. Thank you. Until next time.
Until next time. Have a great day. Ladies, oh my goodness. Oh, what a full day we've had today. So much was shared. So much transparency. So much honesty about where folks are or were and what they're doing and how they're sharing with you how you can do it too. Like Dr. Marcia says, take back the keys because the jail cell of the mind isn't locked, right? You too can rise. You are rising, and still she rises, and still I rise, but you have to believe it, right? Believe it, walk in it. You have the power. Oh gosh, this was good. This was a good day. I am so glad that you all decided to join us today. And so what I'm going to do is, I know you've heard a lot of information and you saw some commercials about my new book, as I just shared, called Manifesting Her, which is volume 2, where I'm looking for authors and speakers. I believe that transparency is healing. I believe that in our voice, we give voice to the voiceless. We give hope to the hopeless. Where there is light, there is liberty. And so part of this second book is to rally up other women who are wanting to share their stories to help be an agent of change in the lives of women who want to feel connected and be a part of. But not only will you be a part of the book, I've decided that I want you to also be able to share it. So there will be a Manifesting Her book, but also a Manifesting Her speaker series. And so if you decide to be a part of this book, you will also be a speaker. You will be one of the speakers at the series to teach your chapter to all those who are in attendance. I'm excited about it. In fact, After the commercial, I have my email address that you can contact me for more information. If you've registered, I will be sending out information to you all about how you can be a part of the book. We're having our first interest meeting on March the 19th at 7 p.m. EST time. And so I'm excited about this. I do believe manifesting her isn't just a one-stop thing. We're all manifesting her. We all have the her within us that we desire to be. It's about birthing her. It's about believing in her. That her who was bold, that her who was courageous, that her that you can see strong and powerful. And other women need to see and hear it too. And so this book will do just that, inspiring other women to take their power back. And so, yes. And also I'm having a retreat. You guys saw that commercial as well. Yes, I'm hosting a retreat October the 12th through the 15th in Nassau, Bahamas. Relax, relate, release. Ladies, we do so much. Yes, we're rising, but we also have to know how to rest. We can't do it all, although we try to do it all. And so stay tuned for the commercial, and I'll give you more information on how to attend the retreat, but also be a part of the book anthology. Stay tuned. Hello again. As we come to a close, I just want to first say thank you to all of you who decided to hang out with me today, to hear the amazing women that grace this platform to share life into you. Thank you for all that they do. Thank you for watching. Also, again, if you're interested in being a part of my second book, Manifesting Her, you can email me at info@drtashinareader.com. If you want more information about the retreat, you can also email me at info@drtashinareader.com. And I just want to say thank you to all those who were a big part of this production. And just so that you know, And Still She Rise will be back. This was the first summit, and I will have another one probably every year. This will be an annual thing. And so stay tuned for information to how you can be a part to also share on this platform to other women, because like Dr. Auntie, I call her Dr. Auntie Maya Angelou, and still I rise, and still you rise, and still she rise. You guys have a blessed and amazing day. Thank you for attending. Take care.